Saguaros are the first thing that pop into people's minds when they think of Arizona or the desert in general. But for 14 different kinds of birds, they're also a hotel. That's where they live. But it's also the grocery store. Saguaros are flowering and fruiting in May and June when the desert is crispy brown and dry. It's the only good food out there for lots of different types of birds. So without saguaros providing those key food resources in that really dry time, it would just make the desert that much more inhospitable. There are two main threats. The first is wildfire, and the bushfire outside of Phoenix a couple of years ago wiped out over 400,000 mature saguaros and lost years of living because saguaros can live for 200 to 300 years. The second major threat for saguaros right now is two different aspects of a changing climate. The first piece of that is that winters are having more frequent big freezes, and freezes are one of the things that can kill saguaros. The second thing is that saguaros are really picky about what type of precipitation they need in order to sprout and survive. And because of increasing variation in our rainfall patterns, it's really unusual that we get a wet monsoon, a wet winter, and then another wet monsoon, all back to back, which is what a saguaro needs. And all of the climate models are predicting that to get less frequent, just making it harder and harder for saguaros into the future. We're trying to tackle the main threats to the saguaros using different aspects. The first is where there are, we're trying to make sure that they don't get lost due to wildfires. And so we're working really hard with a huge consortium of people to try to make sure that invasive plants don't get a foothold there that could lead to wildfires. The second piece that we're doing is where fires have already occurred. We're trying to go in and jumpstart the reestablishment of saguaros in those areas by planting little saguaro seedlings, only a few inches tall, but big enough and hardy enough that they're able to survive without being irrigated. The third thing is that in areas that are not currently good saguaro habitat, but that all the climate models suggest will become good saguaro habitat 100 years from now, we're trying to help saguaros migrate to those areas by planting slightly bigger saguaros in those areas. There are lots of ways that the average person can help in all of our work, but especially with the Saguaro Project. You can volunteer to help us plant saguaros when we have volunteer days. You and your neighbors can make sure that you're removing bufflegrass and stinknet from your neighborhood when you find it. We've got options for joining with your friends and neighbors to donate and adopt a saguaro or adopt a saguaro seedling. Even if you can't be out there directly planting it yourself, you can sponsor somebody else to plant a saguaro for you. If you'd like to know more, check us out online. We'd love to work with you to protect our beautiful desert.